ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome you at the afternoon's panel of the first day of this year's Finweek. And this panel discussion will be focused on the really developing opportunities fintech sector is facing or waiting for in the Central and Eastern European region. And I think we have at this time the very good representation of the countries which may be participating in this process. Before we start, let me please, as chairman of this panel, thank to the partners of the Finweek, which are the main partners: Ministry of Finance of the Slovak Republic and National Bank of Slovakia, companies Visa, Binance, Blik, and 365 Bank. The supporters, Portu and Slovak Credit Bureau, KRIF and Fumbi, and the expert guarantee of FINAS, the Fintech and Insurtech Association of Slovakia, as an organizer. So back to the topic of opportunities for the fintech sector. Now let me please introduce our speakers. I think they are representing all countries we have, not only in the region, but maybe in our plans, and maybe some of them will enjoy to participate. So let me start with our online guests. So ladies first. So let me introduce Mrs. Maria Staszkiewicz, who is a board member of Czech Fintech Association and president of European Digital Finance Association. Welcome. Mr. Rostyslav Dyuk is a chairman of the board of Ukrainian Association of Fintech and Innovation Companies. Welcome. Mr. Shmuel Ben-Tovim is the president and CEO of the Fintech community of Israel. Welcome, Shmuel.
Hello, welcome, thank you.
And here on the stage, let me welcome Mr. Martin Peter, who is chairman of the Center for Financial Innovation at the Ministry of Finance of the Slovak Republic. Welcome. Mr. Pavel Cverha is vice president of FINAS, and he's from the attorney's office, lawyer Prosman and Pavlovich, the loan company. Welcome. And Mr. Berényi, who is the CEO or co-founder of Fintech Solutions, the Hungarian Fintech Association. Welcome, Benjamin. So I think the best way how to start the discussion is ask you, how do you see the opportunities for the CE region? So the main topic, and what you see as maybe new open windows which are coming to the market or to the sector, and how you can address them. So now we can start here. So you, Benjamin.
Hello, everybody. So yeah, thanks. So yeah, what kind of opportunities do we have here in CE? I think yeah, we generally can operate with a very or comparably low cost base. So for instance, what we are doing in the B2B buy now pay later sphere, it's a very hot topic currently in European fintech. And our burn rate is comparably much lower than that of any of our competitors. This means that we can scale at a much faster, much more efficient way, and enter segments that probably our competitors wouldn't be able to do, pursue and look at potential niches of innovation where they just don't have the capital or they don't have the time and effort to dig into and look into. So I think this really efficient capital structure that we can utilize in this region provides us with a very unique spot.
Thank you very much. And now maybe we will ask Shmuel, what about what is your opinion about the opportunities in the region? You may have the kind of a helicopter view to the region, because maybe from outside some things are more visible than for us in the market.
Thank you. It is true that we are not part of the region, but it's not a secret that we have very good relationship with the region, with all the countries represented here and more. And some with hosting Israeli development centers, some in doing development work for Israeli companies, and more so Israeli companies that are trying to enter the markets in the CE region. So there is a lot of correlations, and I think that the COVID area has at one hand halted some of the mutual visits and face-to-face encounters, but I think even more so have speed up the relationship and shown up the opportunities that exist even if we don't live next door to each other. And I can see more and more opportunities coming up with, with the scaling up of open banking that we'll probably touch on later on, with the emergence of cryptocurrencies and the technologies related to them. So I think there is a lot of opportunities. Not all the markets in the CE region are very big ones, but we can speak because we are a small market by ourselves. But I think there is a lot of space for co-development and cooperation in bringing together Israeli and people from the region who can develop together, maybe even partner together, and then sell the products and services to the larger markets in North America and Europe, etc.
Thank you very much. Martin, you from the, let's say, public sector or the government sector, let's say, the government sector, you have a different kind of a helicopter view to the new things because you are also part of the regulating body. So how do you see the opportunities?
I guess, as Benjamin mentioned, we have the opportunities are based on the positive characteristics of the economy of the CE region. One is the price of the labor. From my point of view, very important is also that we have enough skilled people or workforce, especially in the IT and also in the finance sector, which provides for the opportunity to cross-sectorally create or boost ideas. From point of view of the government or point of view of the regulation, we are not doing, speaking for Slovakia, we can do more, definitely. We somehow started this discussion a couple of years ago. Of course, there were other priorities during this period, COVID, but relating to the development of the situation now, what will drive the innovation? On one side, it's a new regulation of, for example, MiCA. You discussed this today. We will see potentially the Payment Services Directive 3 that should incorporate the recent trends on fintech in innovation. Commission will come soon, hopefully soon, with the draft of the regulation for discussion of the member states and from point of view of the government now, I think now what is the most important thing overall is the energy crisis and also the war on Ukraine. I think in these terrible in the energy crisis, what is a terrible situation, and in the war that our friends from Ukraine are now having with Russia, there lies a lot of challenges, but also opportunities. When Ukraine will win the war, I think it will be a need for closer cooperation with our friends in Ukraine. We can learn much from them, definitely, and we can also provide them with some experience and ideas how we do things here. So I think this will be the opportunity for the future. and also the energy crisis. I think it will bring potential for innovation, maybe not that financial innovation, but innovation how to save energy, how to manage the energy. So I think we are living in a dynamic times with some unfortunate events, but also fortunate events, and hopefully, and I'm pretty sure that Slovakia, Hungary, Poland, Czech Republic, but also Austria, like the region here, is ready to cope with the situation, and hope we as the government will step by step try to support this movement.
Thank you very much. Rostyslav, just following what Martin just said, we are the more happy to have you here, that we hope that soon this horrible, let's say, situation your country is facing will stop, and maybe I'll tell more after you win, which hopefully will be soon. The cooperation will continue, and that is also why we are really interested in what are your opinions about the opportunities in the region.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I hope in nearest future to see everybody in Kyiv after our victory, and we'll celebrate together in person. So back to the question, we live in interesting times, and first COVID, it was stress for whole world, but it gave amazing opportunities for developing fintech and digital finance. Especially in Ukraine, 27% of population tried digital finance solution first time, and it's still continue to use it. So we see how governments, especially Ukrainian government, go to digital space in terms of digitalization of government services, open APIs, and give chance providers to work with this. If we back to regulation space, we see the trend in Europe that national regulators start to do the harmonization of the local regulation with EU regulation. And even in Ukraine, our government do a leapfrog in terms of implementing open banking, PSD2 regulation, etc. And we hope that after the war, Ukraine will be a new open market for our EU colleagues to, develop in this open banking, developing, new solutions, because consumer need new interesting solutions. They're ready to test it. They're ready to use it. And third space, it's new technology come to the market, and this new technology start to be very applicable in short term. So we see what's happening with AI. We see what's now happening with blockchain. And I think new technology will come and will have better impact for whole industries. And the fourth, and maybe the last, but in this, we see the huge potential how digital finance solutions and fintech solutions could disrupt other industry. So now we see that when fintech come to, for example, energy, it start to be energy tech. When fintech come to agro, it start to be agrotech. And I think this trend will continue, this digitalization of everything using fintech, because it's about how you can pay and receive the money. It's very important, because every successful industry will need to have this like payment solution, and fintech give it to them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now back to the domestic field. Pavel, how you see, not from a position of a regulator, but the ecosystem, the opportunities for fintech sector?
I think that the main opportunity for our ecosystem is in geography. If you look on the map, you see that the Central European region is in the center of the Europe, and in the center of Central Europe is Slovakia and Bratislava. I agree with other speakers that we here, not only in Slovakia but in whole Central European region, we have people, we have knowledge, we have technological background, but also we have this geographical advantage. And our ambition and vision is to create from Slovakia, and particularly from Bratislava, the center of gravity. The center of gravity for fintech sector here in Central Europe, and to create conditions, regulations which will attract pool investors, developers, and other people and businesses which are focused on fintech. Therefore, we started the initiative and we call it Fintech Valley, V4 Fintech Valley, and we'd like to start cooperation between our countries, Hungary, Slovakia, Poland, Bohemia, and to use this potential which was mentioned by other speakers. Another opportunity which we have here, particularly in Slovakia, is that we have a healthy ecosystem. Our organization consists almost from almost 50 members, from really new startups up to worldwide known corporates. And I think that this is also opportunity for cooperation between small and young, and between well-established companies. What we plan to do in, I hope in a short time, that we would like to build blockchain center for developers. And we started some kind of communication with Binance about support, and we hope that at the end of the day we get that support.
Thank you very much. And Maria, we started the introduction with you, but we now have the opportunity to close the opening round.
Yes, thank you. Probably I'll just try to wrap up what the other speakers said and make a couple of points. But before that, let me just refer to my colleague from Slovakia just mentioned. I hope that not only Bohemia, but also Moravia and Silesia from the Czech Republic will be counted in the Fintech Valley. But back to my points. So what makes the CE region interesting? First, I think is the labor market context. It's not only about the still lower salary expectations, but more, I would say, it's are the skills of people in our region, especially in cybersecurity, AI, blockchain. The second point I wanted to make is that there is very strong e-commerce in our region. It's very strong domestic players, which to some extent are pushing the development of digital services in our region, and fintechs can and are already partnering with the domestic players, bringing new solutions. And it's really important that such domestic players, and it's not those big companies from let's say the US and other regions, that are focusing and using the market features and are using what the region has to offer. And the third point is the I would say pretty strong position of banks, which can be both a disadvantage and advantage in the case of fintechs. And what I mean here is that for all of those who lived in Western Europe, for example, you know that banks are not really that digitalized as they are in our region. And how can fintechs take advantage of that. First of all, they are motivated to look for interesting products because banks are taking up some of the space. So it's like a positive motivation. Sometimes you have to think twice to place a new product on the market, but then you stand more chances of those products being more interesting. And second thing is that the consumers are really tech savvy, and they are really wanting to consume new financial technology services. So I think it's a feature that fintechs can and should be using here. And maybe I'll just close my introductory remarks saying that yes, I mean the geography is important. However, we are providing the services, and we are speaking about digital context where geography is not of such big importance. I would say regulation is of stronger importance here, and that's why the engagement of public authorities and regulators and contact authorities is very important to create such environment that will attract players from other regions to maybe establish themselves in one of the CE countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As was said, the role of banks as a traditional players in the financial market is very important. So is the role of the government sector and the entire public sector, but especially the government bodies, not only because of the regulation, but there are a lot of public policies which maybe perform better as a role of the state using this technology. And what is one of the best long-term achievements the fintech sector has shown is that beside the other technology-based new sectors, fintech is much more accepted by the government sector. And from the position of something a little underground and maybe very alternative, it became one of the real sectors. So now I would like to use the unique opportunity that I have the member of the representative of the government sphere and the representative of the ecosystem from the same country, and start with the situation, maybe how the public policies in Slovakia may use the fintech innovations and some areas which are to be developed using this technology, and maybe then ask, and of course, ask you, Martin, and then in connection ask Pavel to describe the reaction of the ecosystem of the commercial sector. And then, of course, I will also like to ask you, the other speakers, to maybe participate as following the situation in your countries.
Okay, that's a good question. I think what should be the cooperation? I think the cooperation should be like two-way avenue, not only for the fintech, but also for the government. We have the opportunity to learn new things. Regarding the technology that can be used or is already used, I think what is very good, and we are quite strong in it, it's RegTech and SubTech, but RegTech, considering that fintech is closely connected with the AML, and we see it now, the sanctions, the anti-terrorism policies, and especially anti-money laundering. You all, whether you are from banks or payment services providers, or even when you are from the crypto world, you know that the compliance in this field brings you headaches. It's not to mention pain in the ass, but really it's something that you provide a lot of energy, a lot of funds to be in compliance with the AML. There are technologies that can provide for smoother compliance with these requirements, and it also serves as the mirror for the government, where we can see what is available on the market, how these processes work. and we can learn from that. I think there is one open initiative in this regard, is the digital identity, not only connected with the EU initiative, but our Ministry for the long, the long name, but for development or informatization. They're working now, as we speak. They're working now on the project for digital identity, not only using some cards, but really use the phones, the smartphones, the biometry to allow for smoother identification, which in turn can going back to fintech, can bring new or smoother identification processes for fintechs. Yeah, so I think it's a and we learn a lot. We just started the discussion. We cooperate with and discuss with National Bank. They are doing quite a tremendous work, and they are building their knowledge base and experience. There are a lot of good, very enthusiastic people there. So we learn a lot from the market, and hopefully we give something back. For example, when I discuss the AML, in this regard, our law is quite progressive, also considering other V4 countries. And I will step more. I know I speak a lot. I will be short. It will be good to maybe go more deeper into discussion with the business, but also with the governmental organizations like ministries of finance or supervisors like central banks, to exchange the experience we have, maybe to learn something from them and apply it here, and also they can learn something from us. And a step like the European level, what is very good, what Mrs. Staszkiewicz mentioned, is that it's about regulation. Now we are going to have the harmonization also in crypto, in payments. So there is no need for jurisdiction shopping or regulation shopping for the businesses. Then it will be really about the willingness of the supervisors, license process, how smooth it is. And I think there we have one big issue opened with payment services with the National Bank. There is a discussion how to smoother the process. So hopefully we will do our homework and make it even easier for the payment services providers to apply for the license or to introduce a new product. So it's a two-way process. We can learn a lot. We can provide them quite a lot of experience and also opportunities, also in the V4 and the European region.
Thank you very much. Pavel, field is open. What about your, or maybe the ecosystem's reaction and maybe achievements in building public digital policies?
Okay, first I'd like to say that I think and I feel that cooperation between Ministry of Finance and National Bank is really good and correct. And yeah, I feel it.
Sorry.
I'm starting to be nervous. What are you preparing for us? No, but we have really open discussions. Since beginning of the year, we had discussions about AML, PSD2 directive, about bank ID. Yeah. So I think the ecosystems is involved in each important regulations, which is going to be imposed to us. That's the first. I think that these public areas regulated by public law, like AML, of course, that's the area in which we should cooperate. Also, bank ID. And very important thing is, as was mentioned, the payment services and open banking. And the big opportunity is to analyze this really big data which are produced by banks, by financial companies. But there is also another area which should be mentioned and maybe, I'm sure, regulated. And this is, I would say, new galaxy, really new galaxy of relationships. And I mean this private civil law, in which we can use many of the innovations from fintech sector. I would mention smart contracts. I would speak about tokenizations of assets. I would speak about DAO organizations. All these new legal systems should be also incorporated in our law. And when I spoke about Slovakia as a center of gravity, I also think that there is not only this geographical advantage, but I think that we are a small country that in which we can communicate very openly to our regulators, and therefore we have ambitions to start also change all these rules relating to these contracts and other issues related to everyday life of people, and to improve life through these fintech innovations. And we actively work on action plan for digitization of Slovakia, and fintech will have their really, I hope, really big influence on this action plan, and we believe that our ideas will be incorporated in it.
Thank you very much. Okay, now is the opportunity for any of you, if you would like to participate, because we see that now from some kind of financial mysteries, the fintech is really becoming a working tool to ease the living situation for people. So if there are good examples or success stories, maybe now it's time to share or to open the field in any of your countries.
So let me start, and I think colleagues can add something. So we are not part of EU, but we see yet. We fight for this, and I hope in nearest future Ukraine will be. But what we see from our side, what's happening in Europe, we see the huge and rising role of association as a public-private dialogue between regulators and the market. And we see we in short term be associate member of ETFA, and we started during the war, and we see the amazing work what our colleagues do in terms of discussion new regulations. So is this risk coming, and how it will affect the market? So I think Maria will add to this, and how quick they could organize a community from cross-border different countries and do some projects. And we see it in some cases that we do jointly. If you back to Ukraine, this cooperation between fintech and government was, it's new examples, and we can share some of them with you, because you can be prepared to war, especially in finance. And when missiles start to attack our cities, especially in eastern part of Ukraine, so people were so stressed, so sometimes they leave their houses just having only phone in their hands. So they forget the documents, and it's very hard to be included to financial sector or government services if you don't have documents. You should, do the identification of your person. And here, this agility and AID and Bank ID help a lot of people. Because from one side, our national bank do amazing job of developing Bank ID. It's pretty developed in our country. And from other side, Ministry of Digital Transformation do some tools and the governments that allowed to do this identification with Bank ID and give access to this people with some like temporary e-documents. They can prove their identity and, you know, use some government services, especially for IDPs, for some like payments to help them to establish their new lives. So here we see that very important, it's like lesson learned from this war, that speed of reaction, sometimes government are very slowly. So speed of reaction for new challenges is very important. This open discussion, ecosystem-based, with this, for example, leadership of ETFA that we see in Europe, it's very important. And new technology can save lives. It's also very important. So fintech is not something that, you know, funny that we all play. It's very important, you know, term. It starts to be part of our life. So we see that when the rockets destroy our infrastructure, you know, some bank branches will never open, some ITMs are broken, some, you know, bridges are broken. But in digital infrastructure space, everything that was working and take the main, you know, reaction to the situation. And we see a huge opportunity when we will do recovery of economy to not rebuilding all like physical infrastructure, but, you know, better developing this digital infrastructure. And here we will need new legislation, better integration to EU legal framework. And, you know, just to finish, we have big battles with our government in terms of acceptance of cloud legislation in Ukraine. So cloud wasn't, you know, like legal in financial sector. So it always was like workaround. You should have like physical infrastructure. But in second months of war, our government accepts this. And, you know, a lot of financial services providers and fintechs, and sometimes fintechs even help this big banks to do this migration to cloud and, you know, feel their data and operations more safe. And another area is huge area for all of us. It's digital assets and cryptocurrencies law and central bank digital currencies. You know, all local governments have their own way and view how it will be developed, but we need some like cross Europe digital assets legislation that will help us, you know, to use this payment and exchange instruments to new products.
Thank you very much. Very inspirative words, and thanks for it. And okay, any other?
Yeah,
idea?
I'm ready to jump in. Talking about government and relationship between government and fintech brings to mind many areas of involvement in Israel. And I think there are mainly three of them. One is, how does government support innovation and the emergence of new tech sectors such as fintech? The second one is, of course, financial regulations. And the third one is the government as a customer. And that was touched before, e-government, digitalization, and so on. I would say that out of the three, we are in Israel very happy with the first one. Normally, the industry complains about government not helping enough. I don't think it is a situation in Israel. We have built in the last 20, 25 years a very, very efficient mechanism, mainly led by what is known as the Israel Innovation Authority, which really gives solution to companies at any stage of their life cycle, starting from the very beginning and the very risky stages up to later stages. And I don't think that anyone in Israel who has a bright idea and a good team and wants to develop it to an extent can claim that it can't have help from the government. Not to mention, of course, the private support system, angel investors, a very developed VC industry, and so on. Moreover, although Israel is not a member of the EU, as you well know, we enjoy most of the benefits that EU countries enjoy from Horizon and other programs. So on top of the Israeli assistance, Israeli companies can enjoy very, very generous help from the EU. So this is the happy part of the story. Now we come to regulation, and of course the clouds are over us. Unfortunately, the Israeli regulatory system is very slow to adapt to what has happened in fintech and cryptocurrencies, etc. The regulators themselves admit part of it. Some of it has to do with the history and structure. We have at least 3 different financial regulators. I can count more than that. So the system is complicated. And I remember even getting an approach from Finas a few months ago, if we have any companies that can join the sandbox that you are building in your country, because they know, as we know, that there is no sandbox in Israel. Not because no one wants it, everyone wants it. But we have a political situation, the parliament is not responding, and we have a situation in which other countries are looking after Israeli young companies to do their POCs in their own countries. So this actually creates an opportunity. The last point is e-government and digitalization. Again, we are not very advanced in it, but we are catching up. And the government is introducing more and more services that we look at countries as everyone may look at Estonia that went a long way, and other good examples over Europe. And I think it's catching up. But again, we are very much welcoming technologies that were developed in other countries to improve the relationship between the customers of the government and the government. And we don't have to reinvent the wheel in Israel. Anyone who has interesting solutions, we are happy to hear them, introduce them to the government, or do some kind of cooperation with Israeli government and together with Israeli companies and together go to the government. So I think it's a wide area for collaboration with the CE countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Of course, beside our speakers, you are also invited to the discussion. So if you have any idea, just raise your hand, please, and I will give you a microphone also for our online speakers to hear. So if there are any other ideas, yes, Benjamin?
Yeah, sure. I'm afraid I'm a bit less optimistic in this regard, but that's why it should be a roundtable discussion. So far, I think we have agreed on most topics. Oh, you're already prepared. Yeah, so what I see from Hungary as well is that the national bank and the government takes fintech very seriously as well, and the EU is taking fintech seriously, and it's a super important topic. But after long conversations, I don't really see the impact materializing in actual legislations. So there are some, I don't know, directives or recommendations maybe from the national banks, but the regulation is still very fragmented between our countries. Like the V4 region, if you look at it from a demographic perspective, it's very similar. It would be very easy and very good to serve with one single solution. But for us, we are operating actually in all the four Visegrad countries and in Germany, and the legislation is completely different in all the 5 countries. And we had to do a lot of work, and it cost a lot of legal fees to comply with all the local regulations. So this is very, very difficult to handle, and I know it takes a long time to do these, and we try to facilitate from the Hungarian Fintech Association perspective as well. We try to facilitate it with our company as well, but so far there is no real way around it but to comply with these diverse regulations, and it takes a long time to work on this and to scale up.
I think it's very good inspiration, and it brings me to another point in our agenda, and that is maybe the enablers for the future development of this sector. And I think for all of you as an ecosystem across the countries, it would be one of the greatest ways to really maybe start to merge the regulation, at least for these countries, because it can be one of the pioneer steps also maybe for the entire European Union, or maybe at least a significant part of it. So if there are any such areas, the ideas are now welcome. Martin, you seem to be interested.
Yeah, it was obvious. It's a good idea. I will come to what Shmuel said, that the regulation is slow. Unfortunately, I know what he's talking about. So it's a great idea, and I think we need to start this discussion. I think that also the PSD3 will focus more on this, because, as I said, the jurisdiction shopping, or how to call it, is still the problem. And we see, for example, and I think we will see it more, that we have directives. Yeah, we have the CRD, we have the PSD, we had anti-money laundering directive. Now it's over with this. In AML, there will be regulation. Why? Because all the countries they did it differently, and that's not really the aim to have the common market. I think this will be the same with the payment services. So it will stop to be directive, because there are like 17 or how many. Maybe colleagues from the National Bank will correct me. I think 17 options and discretions where the member state can do things differently, and then it's a mess, you know. And we say we are a small country. You are right. So if a company starts here, you won't be able to attract the enough customers to go through the break even. So you need to go to other countries, and when you have to pay fees for regulation and like compliance with the regulation, it's burdensome. Yeah, so I think that's a good idea. It will come from Europe. We can also start this discussion, but I think it will be quite. I'm the only one from the government here. I think it will be quite a challenging discussion, because even if you say if you see the requirements for starting a bank, they are so different, you know. In fact, we were with Czech Republic. Maria is with Czech Republic. We were. It's similar, but then with Hungary, Poland, Austria, yeah, it's so different because, and in fact, it's the same thing, you know. And I'm not talking about crypto and, but what I wanted to come back to, what I think Rostyslav said. I think it's great case study of how the digitalization may help also the government, but in the end to the citizens, to the customers. We had the case with the IDs. We had the case. We introduced, as the ministry, we introduced a new product for Ukrainians coming through our border, because they're exactly they didn't have their IDs, or they had old passports, and there was a problem with the identification, opening of the banking account. What worked was to like lower the requirements, but what would be great if there will be one ID, like digital ID within Europe and also with Ukraine, where the banks can rely on this data. So I think really what Rostislav said, that digitalization in the government and also, and we are lagging behind, but digitalization in the government and also in the financial industry can help us to overcome problems that we don't see. We have climate change, we have energy crisis now, so there will be things that we will be challenged with. And I think fintech, because you need to pay for things and you need to receive money, fintech can bring such solutions. Yeah.
Thank you. Maria seemed to be trying to engage.
Yes,
right?
a couple of points in my notes. But I'll try to first answer to your questions. You asked about the enablers of a better fintech environments in our region and in the EU in general. And I think the best answer to that is it's the fintech companies themselves. And what I mean by that, even though regulation is not the sexiest thing, definitely not for a discussion, nor for to follow up, to follow as a company. And many of the, especially starting companies, do not have the time and money resources to do so. However, fintech finance sector is one of the most regulated sectors globally. And that's why, whether we like it or not, fintech companies, if they want to have a say, if they want the context in which they are providing their services, if they want the context to be more favorable to them, they have to engage in the regulatory debate with the regulator, both on the national and on the EU level, especially on the EU level, because most of the regulation, most of the legal acts that pertain to financial companies are being written in Brussels. So it's one of my points I wanted to make. I mean, it would be pretty difficult to do any regional arrangements in terms of regulation, because most of that comes from Brussels. So I'm a little bit skeptical about creating any CE-related regulations, because that's done in Brussels. So the most important point, companies have to engage through society, associations or themselves in the creation of regulation. And I would say it's even their civic responsibility to do so. It's not that it's only the ministries and the regulators that should come up with ideas. No, it's the companies that should do so. Second thing, Shmuel mentioned that inactivity of the regulator or contact authorities may be detrimental to development of companies. This is true, but sometimes the overactivity is not good either. Especially, we can see this on the EU level in terms of over-regulation of specific technologies. For example, the Artificial Intelligence Act that is now being discussed by the Parliament and member states may have very negative outcomes also for the fintech industry. So again, I invite companies to be more acquainted with that. What are other enabling factors that both regulators and company could engage with are, for example, sandboxes. They can be either regulatory or non-regulatory, which are specific arrangements. I don't think I have to explain what it is. But again, it would be much more advantageous if those sandboxes would have a EU arrangements at the EU level, because then a company that would be testing their innovative solution in country A could easily use their experience and maybe a license or permit they would get to do the same testing or to put their innovative product on market in country B or C. So that's why regulation is important, and the sandboxes are being now discussed also on the EU level. But again, because the Commission and the institutions are very I would say fragmented here as well. Unfortunately, there are discussions in various DGs, not often done in conjunction. So here's my maybe a request also to people from the policy sector to push for the harmonization of sandboxing on the EU level, and that's what EDFA is also trying to engage with in Brussels. And he also mentioned my final point, because I want to close on a more positive note. You also asked about good examples of fintechs, and here I would like to refer to our joint cooperation with Rostyslav. We did a hackathon in May and June together with the European Commission, and one of the actually the solution that won was a solution based on DLT, and a company is now developing an NFT system that should be helping to restore historical, cultural, but also other infrastructure thanks to the issuance on NFT and crowdfunding. So I think it's fintech can be helpful in times of war, unfortunately, as we see every day, but also each of us have seen that through the pandemic during COVID times. So that's why it's important to support it.
Thank you very much. Martin, you want just a short reaction?
Coming back to the idea of like merging the regulation, unfortunately, the regulation in the EU is not that easy. That all the regulation is written in Brussels. We still have quite a lot of particular, like you have the act on banks, but only the half of it is harmonized. The second half is not. Yeah, and we have this in insurance, in payment services, mostly just the capital requirements, for example, for banks. All the other requirements for organization of the bank, setting the bank, requirements for how you start business are not harmonized. Yeah, and this applies to all sectors of the financial sector. But really, coming back to what Maria said, it's really important that the businesses communicate with local regulators, ministries, or supervisors like the National Bank, Central Bank, because what we see from communication with FINAS, from communication with the blockchain Slovakia regarding MiCA, you have the ideas what's wrong or what can be better, and we have very good experience in this, that we get ideas from crypto community, then we get in touch with Czech Republic, with in fact with V4 countries, with Baltic countries, and we were able to change something in the draft that was to our advantage, and so it works. We are a small country in this regard, but we can create, and we have friends in the legislative process where the economies are more similar. We have the same problems, so we can also change laws and regulations that are created in Brussels. because they are created by the member state. So we are part of the process. So it really helps if you communicate with your counterparts in the government, and you can really change the drafts of the law or create something that will allow for better regulation in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any suggestions from the auditorium? If not now, well, the next topic was opened by Rostyslav, and it was, well, we all hope that soon we won't be talking about the war in Ukraine, but hopefully we will talk about the recovery process in Ukraine. And I think, and a few of you in our discussions had the idea that fintech may have its significant role in the recovery process. And I think some very nice ideas were open by Rostyslav himself, and also Maria mentioned something. So maybe this is a topic maybe to elaborate a little more. What may be the inspiration for this role? Pavel.
I'm very happy that I can say here that we, as a FINAS, started cooperation with our Ukrainian colleagues on establishing Slovak Ukrainian Fintech Hub. And I think that it's a good first step for cooperation and for some kind of help for our Ukrainian colleagues. And I believe that this cooperation will bring fruits for everybody. And this fintech, Ukrainian Slovak fintech, will be a part of mentioned fintech V4 Valley. So I would say extended V4 from the east to the west, because we see there as a cooperative country is also Ukraine and Austria. So I think our Central European ecosystem can be enlarged and can consist also with Ukraine and Austria also.
Thank you very much. So building on this initiative, I think the nice idea is this extending what Rostyslav said, the digital bridges can be constructed much faster than the physical, the real ones. So it may be a big opportunity. And maybe also the question for you, what may be the ideas or maybe the issues or opportunities for such a cooperation, really to just, well, maybe use the V4 only as a, not as a geographical name, but maybe just the initiative for making really Central European larger and stronger, or maybe also in the context of the entire EU for the future.
So, okay, I will start, and if colleagues will want to add. So we see a couple layers where we can cooperate and bring some like win-to-win strategy to all countries, because it's not only the one way. We see a huge help that EU countries give to Ukrainian refugees, give to Ukrainian army and Ukrainian economy to support us in this war. And we also want to, give something back. And we hope that we can do it after the war, but we try to find the way how we can cooperate in this situation. And here we see like couple potential cases of cooperation that there is on the table. As I mentioned, for us is very important what cooperation we do under the cooperation of association. From like EDFA, like hub of all this European association, all this legal activity, and build the right bridges with EU Commission and how Ukraine in future can be easily and compliance integrated to EU rules and collaboration. Also, we have some good examples with some like national associations that we do, and this, as was mentioned, this ideas of hub could be a little bit symbolic at this moment, but we see huge opportunities in this like local collaboration via these hubs in different countries that can give access for finding the right partner, matching some like business ideas, matching investors and startups, matching startups and banks, and try to, try the technology in different sandboxes, because terms of sandbox start to be like hype last year in different regulators, and some sandboxes work very different. And for startups is an easy way to test the technology and enter another market via these hubs and sandboxes. And also we see, and we now thinking how we can find the right way, and maybe this problem and solution for this problem, it could be used for whole Europe. Ukraine was historically outsourced country for programmers. We have strong mathematical schools at universities. And even if you back to Israel, I think some colleagues from Israel mentioned that 40% of programmers was outsourced from Ukraine to their startups. I don't know, Shmuel, maybe you will add something to this. And we have this historically some cooperation with some countries. And this war put us in situation to scale it, because in terms of fintech, Ukraine was pretty product country. We don't do outsourcing fintech of teams and programmers. But what's happened now? These startups, this company have well-educated teams that know the technology and they know the domain expertise. And the markets drop up to 80%. Half of the market recovery, half not yet. And they don't want to fire the people. They are ready to sell these teams. And we're thinking how we can build the solutions that help, do this matchmaking between these IT teams and startups or corporations that need these teams to speed up their growth. It's a global problem, and maybe the situations that we now have in Ukraine and ideas of these hubs would help us to find the way in physical and digital space how we can solve this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shmuel.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I can confirm the numbers that were mentioned by Rostyslav, but they are probably very close to reality. The leaning of the Israeli fintech industry and the tech industry at large, not only fintech, on developers and developing team from the Ukraine is a known secret for many years. I know that at the beginning of the war, some of the teams for security reasons moved out of the Ukraine. Most of them, as far as I know, moved back since then. But there is no doubt that I think the economic damage to the Ukraine would have been much larger if it was based only on heavy industry or garment industry. So they are blessed to have, this mind power and the level of education that allow them to be involved in industries that for them, for a great extent, the exact location is not a big issue. And if the environment, at least temporarily, does not allow them to work from their traditional post, they can do it everywhere, keep the clients, keep the work, and hopefully go back home to a peaceful environment in the near future. But I think it's an example exactly we are talking about Ukraine because very unfortunate reasons, but it is still a very good example of the advantages of this industry, and also on how much can be achieved in international collaboration, in which each side gives what it does best. And it's not the kind of slavery of 200 years ago. It's very far from it. I would say that in many extents, to a large extent, this is an asset to the country that provides the services, the country that receives the services. And I think at the end of the world, it really creates a collaboration of win-win. And sometimes, as they say, 1 + 1 is 3. And this is something we should look for in most CE countries. We do have, as I mentioned before, some very active collaborations with other countries, but again, the political situation has put a spotlight on the Ukraine. And I think that the conference is taking place in Bratislava. I know that there are also Israeli involvements over there. And we should be looking, because at the end of the day, most of us, maybe Ukraine is an example of small countries with limited population. And there is an extent to what we can achieve by ourselves. And collaboration is the name of the game.
Thank you very much. Any other ideas? Or maybe auditorium? Okay, so maybe to go a little more into detail, we are speaking about some areas where the activities in the commercial sector are necessary, and maybe also on the government sector, and maybe what wasn't mentioned was maybe the people who are every time behind any activity. So maybe if it was possible, maybe to mention what is expected from the side of companies, maybe not only from the fintech sector, but as you say, the development areas in somehow connecting other sectors. Maybe, I don't know, the industry, the energy sector is now probably very open to innovations, especially if they can save some money. Some other sectors. Then the people, at least what skills are necessary for this, I don't know, for these opportunities to become true. And then, of course, what sort of the government support can be offered for such activities to become reality. I don't know if this is detailed enough, but maybe it's just the open field. Okay, Martin?
Just very shortly, I think what would really help is if you have the opportunity to speak with the people from the government, then really as mantra you should really repeat that you need more digitalization, you need more like smoother services from the government based on digitalization, because I think every time is the right time to mention this, because we know where we are lagging behind in Slovakia. For example, this digital ID. So every time you have the opportunity, just mention this on the low level, on the medium level, on the highest levels, or if you have the associations, then really push them to push towards government. And if you know where the problems are, just speak about it, because otherwise there is so much going on that this digitalization issue will not be that important.
Brings me to the idea that maybe some kind of education can be a chance.
Also education of government officials. Yeah. It helps. We had yesterday there was this crypto taxation meeting, and there were people also discussing like the basic information about what crypto is, how it works, and it works. Yeah, it really, because in police. And AML, people didn't know what is crypto, how it works. In our taxation department, it was the same. So now now people understand how it works, what it is, what are the challenges, what are the opportunities, and now they can really discuss like real taxation, not just something that somebody said, oh, crypto, it's something like shares, so we will tax it like shares, but even harder. Yeah, so people need to understand what they are talking about, and then so yeah, really to push government. We are trying, yeah, but the outside pressure is also very important.
Yes, Benjamin.
Yeah, I think education is a very good keyword, and yeah, I'm happy to hear that the government is happy to learn. But I do believe that that companies, just like generally SMEs in our entire region, have to learn about digitalization and the potential in digitalization, because that is what we see every day, basically, that many of the SMEs lag behind in their digitalization. They could operate so much more efficiently. There is so much potential and very, very easily implemented that this could really drive a huge change in the current environment. And the current difficult environment will probably be, again, a driver, just like the COVID crisis was a driver of digitization. This is going to be a new wave. So, for instance, e-commerce was mentioned. E-commerce, B2C e-commerce has been around. B2B e-commerce is now booming. So SMEs are more and more purchasing online, so that the traditional telephone line has been replaced by B2B web shops. So this fosters, again, a whole new area of innovation. So I do believe that this is also a part of education in the SME or general corporate segment.
Thank you very much.
We have good example how education can help the industry. So the hottest and the last example. So situation we have put again all us to digital channels of communication, and we have some like educational workshop at the market about metaverse, NFT, all this new crypto technology. And in this webinar was participation of participants from National Bank of Ukraine. And, you know, when you come to National Bank with some like new crazy technology like metaverse or NFT, it will be hard to push this wall from the first time. And what's happened during this webinar? All participants build their own NFT and then discuss it. So I was surprised when people from National Bank of Ukraine, who just a couple seconds ago built the first NFT in their life, tried to discuss what regulation should be of this area. They was so open to new technology after they try this. So it shows that when people are better educated and, you know, try to do something with their hand, they always understand this better, always better in terms of prepare the regulation, and always more open to the market. So this is like one case. Another case about importance of education, we as association, last 3 years we call it Fintech labs inside the Ukrainian big universities. And the reason why we do this, it was very pragmatic. Our education system is still going through this transformation process. And we have separate ministry and they have a lot of rules. And if we want to put the Fintech as a program to education for university, we will need 2 years, go through the ministry, all these rules, and make this course happen. So it means that it will be outdated in these 2 years. And we go like another way. We do some like hybrid format in the universities. We call it digital Fintech labs. And we give access the students to the new knowledge from the market. Leaders and the students have chance to have the like real practice in some like Fintech providers. And as a benefit from this our members and Fintech providers have chance to have access to these young talents, and new workers come to them, not for IT industry directly, but for fintech, not for banks because they're borrowing, and fintechs are more agile and more open for them. And third, what we see from this, that if you want to have the real innovation, if you want to find the real innovation, you should go deeply, because Ukrainian fintech was previously built from like bankers, bankers was borrowing from banks. They go outside to the market and build some fintechs. So all people who work more than 5 years in some industry start to be biasing. And the students, they don't have any this previous experience, and they have a lot of questions. And sometimes they, find the very interesting ideas for startups and for some how to solve the problem that industry tried to solve like many years. So education is very important in all layers, from students, market to government.
Thank you very much, Paul.
The new era in Europe brings to us war, recession, energy crisis, but it also brings niches. And if you want to use the niches, you must have, I think, two skills: imagination and ambitions. And therefore, we decided, in cooperation with our founder, University of Economics, to create a subject relating to fintech sector, to fintech technologies, to catch these young people, as was said, without any previous experience, with many questions, and we hope with imagination. Because, we who are older, we have some previous experience, and therefore we ask bad questions. Last time we introduced our vision of new regulation, and question was, is it not very ambitious? Yes, it is, because without ambitions and imaginations, I think you cannot change anything in our countries. Doesn't matter if Slovakia, Hungary, or another country. Therefore, we must support these people.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much again. As we are going out of time, let me please thank all the speakers for very interesting and inspirative ideas. And I think this wasn't the last, but at least the very first discussion about the new process starting on Ukraine, and hope it will start soon. So Rostyslav, stay safe in the hardest meaning of this word, and you all take care and hope. And I'm really looking forward for another discussions on the topic, and wish you a great day. Thank you very much.